So hello everyone, thanks for joining us again. We are the Premium Player FPL podcast. For those who haven't already activated the wildcard over the international break, we're here to stop you from playing that wildcard button. And we're joined, as always, by Mindy, and we've got a special guest joining us on the stream tonight, haven't we, Mindy?
Very special guest. So FPL_Salah, name's Abdul, but I'm sure you probably come across him on Instagram or Twitter as FPL_Salah. So just to run through some stats on his record, he's bit 4 top 1K finishes, 5 in the top 5K, 50K followers on Twitter, and he's fresh off his second appearance on the official FPL show this week, and he also does a lot of stuff for Fantasy Football Hub and Who Scored. So I think we've done very well. We're very grateful to have Abdul joining us as our first guest on this. It's going to be hard to follow with the next guest following Abdul. But thanks a lot for coming on, man. We appreciate you joining us tonight.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me on. I'm always up for chatting FPL. Don't get to chat very much like amongst my friends. So when I get a chance to actually talk about FPL with like-minded people, I'm always up for it.
Nice one. Yeah, but like I say, we definitely appreciate that. And so did you have a slide up there for a second of his season history?
Yeah.
Just for people who are listening on the podcast later, just to run through. So you started amazingly in as soon as you started the game, ranked 604, ranked 952.
Yeah, I mean, like that's actually my last 12 years, right? So like,
okay.
My actual first 2 seasons where I finished like in the first season I joined in Gameweek 2, and I finished like something like 200k. And the second season was 36k.
Right.
But yeah, so I just kind of, that's like the snapshot that somebody made for me. So it just looks better, with the kind of with the 2 bad ranks kind of taken out. But yeah, that's the last 12 years. But yeah, I mean, like I think my second season where I finished at 36k in 2008-9 was when I started taking it like really, really seriously. Like kind of started going on to like the websites and whatnot. So kind of been hooked on it. I think that's 16 years now. I've been playing. Yeah.
Nice. Which one would you say? Which season of these would you say was like your best one that you felt was like it was the hardest or the most satisfying?
I mean, I see when I got the back-to-back like top 1Ks, that was a really good feeling. But I think my most impressive was probably my latest top 1K. I think it's getting harder every season, as the players are growing and all the information out there is, it's so vast. And like, before you had to actually kind of, go into these kind of cult-like websites to kind of get all the best information, but now it's just out there. So because it's getting harder, I think my latest 1K is, I think, probably my most impressive, I'd say.
Well, the part of the problem is there's experts like you going on the FPL show telling you how to play the game.
Yeah, I guess so. But I mean, if you can't beat them, join them. That's what they say.
But yeah, so in 2018-19, ranked 709, there must have been at least around 5 million people playing the game around then. So
yeah,
it's perhaps 8 million now, isn't it? Something like that. So yeah.
I think there's around about 8 million. I think it was 8 million last season. Yeah, there's 7.8 million at the moment. And I think I might get to 9 because people like over the season during Christmas, a lot of people start joining, making teams in as well. So probably get to about 9 million by then. But yeah, a lot of people now, isn't it?
It is a lot of people. So it's just amazing just seeing those numbers there. Callum and I have got, is it 3 top 5Ks between us? And
we're seen as the oracle amongst our close friends. Imagine if we introduced Abdul to our friends and worship.
Yeah, for Abdul, it's the top 5K in his sleep. But before we get into the running order and everything, quickly get the admin out of the way. So we're recording this on Friday night at 10:30. So any injury news or developments around player availability, etc., after that we won't be aware of. So keep an eye on that sort of stuff. Follow us on Twitter, premium_FPL. That's the handle for Twitter and Instagram, and like and subscribe on YouTube as well if you are. Hoping to have a few more guests over the season. So if you subscribe, you don't just have to put up with me and Callum like it's been so far. Have some more people who know what they're talking about on soon, hopefully. And I think should I run through the running order for everyone? So
go for it. Yeah.
Obviously, the top thing on everyone's lips still is Ronaldo. The developments over the past couple of days have just meant even more people are bringing him in since getting that record. So we'll talk about that. And then seeing so many people are wildcarding, and we've got someone like Abdul who's had such experience in the game, we can hopefully offer you some tips and some principles of how to put together a solid wildcard squad. And then something I noticed on the official FPL show was Abdul was running through the best budget enablers to have in your team to help facilitate having players like Ronaldo in. So we can run through that because that'll no doubt be something a lot of people are looking at, the cheap players to have. And then also the players to bring Bruno, etc. down to so that you can upgrade in the forward slots to get Ronaldo and Lukaku. I think that's the running order for today, I think, isn't it, Cal?
Yep, that is. So we'll start with this meme that probably sums up how everyone's feeling over the international break. Everyone activating the wild card. Well, I went early with my wild card last week, if you saw the stream, to get Kane in. I thought Kane captain against Watford might get ahead of the curve. Didn't work out that way. But we're going to talk about the influence of another man that's going to come to the table next week. And obviously this is from...
Just to say for the podcast listeners that the meme that you just had, it was a guy lying in bed and the woman's looking at him just like, what is he thinking about? And he's just lying there with the speech bubble thinking about how to get Ronaldo and Lukaku into his team. So yeah, just something that sort of one of those funny memes you get in the FPL community now. Like the memes are probably the best part of being in FPL Twitter now. There's just so many great ones.
Yeah, it's part of the fun, isn't it? This is something that we grabbed from your Twitter earlier, Abdul. So this is kind of the predicted points, isn't it? Across is it the first 5, 4 to 7? Sorry, the game weeks, isn't it? And Ronaldo's top of that chart. Do you see that he's gonna work out as the top premium asset to bring in across the first few weeks? Would you say?
Yeah. So he's predicted to score like the most points for game week 4 and over from game week 4 to game week 7. So I think a lot of people are kind of planning to get Ronaldo now and then switch up to Lukaku in game week 7 when Chelsea's fixtures kind of soften up a bit. But yeah, he has. I mean, he has the kind of top points predicted, and I think he may very well kind of score the most points during that time. But I think at the same time you can't only look at that. I think you've got to look at the value as well. I mean, whether he's worth the 12.5 million. But I mean, in this case, I think, at the moment, I'm still kind of a bit 50-50 myself, whether I'm going to get him in or whether he is kind of worth it to bring in now up until game week 7, because to get him in, I'm going to have to get rid of Bruno. And, that could easily backfire as well.
Yeah, so I was in the similar sort of camp to you, Abdul, I think, when we recorded last just a few days ago, basically the day before he scored that brace and got the international record and yellow card and all that. And then I was watching those. I was saying to Callum, I brought Lukaku in for a hit last week because I wanted to have Lukaku captain for Villa this week, and that was before I knew about the Ronaldo stuff. If I'd known Ronaldo was coming and all that, I probably wouldn't have made that call. And I was saying to Callum, I've made my bed now for Lukaku captain against Villa. I'm going to have to lie in it. But I think as soon as I saw those goals go in, I think I've decided to get myself down to Benson's for beds. Going to get a new bed, new mattress, a lot of it, I think. Because I just, getting that yellow card and being in Manchester already, I know he's got to do the 5 days of isolation from now, but I think that means he will have at least a couple of days training with the team now before that Newcastle game. So that was one of my doubts before. Like, will he get thrown in from the start, having not trained with the team?
Yeah.
But that yellow card and him being released early from international duty, I can't see how Ollie cannot start him, because that's been something a lot of people have been talking about. Mainly people who haven't got Ronaldo and don't want to get him are saying, well, he's not even sure to start. But I think he is going to start against Newcastle, I think, now.
Yeah, I think he will now. But it's actually quite lucky because if you hadn't got that yellow card, because you probably heard about the 5-day 5-day isolation. So if he had played that game in Azerbaijan, he wouldn't have been able to play the Newcastle game. So I think people who went early on him got really lucky that he actually got that yellow card, because otherwise, he would have missed the Newcastle game due to the the kind of isolation period thing. But saying that, going back to your Lukaku point, remember Lukaku is 1 million cheaper.
Yeah,
and he is. I think this week he's just as good an option, because with Lukaku as well, he's not only a goal scorer, he gets a lot of assists as well. If you look at his kind of assists over the last few seasons, even when he was in the Premier League, I think I was writing an article about it the other day. He's had 44 assists, like in his like his 5-6 years over in the Premier League. I think he got about 10 assists last season for Inter Milan as well. So I don't think. I think from now till game week 7, Ronaldo probably will score more points. But if you take into consideration that 1 million you're saving, then I think they're probably quite equal up until game week 8.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think if I did now, because I've not played my wildcard yet, if I did do it to get Ronaldo in, I would have Ronaldo for 4 to 7. I'd captain him in Newcastle and Villa. Is it Villa United have game week 6?
So they've got Newcastle 4,
and
then
West Ham
Villa at home game week 6.
West Ham, and then, Villa home game week 6. Yeah.
So then I'd captain him for that, and then I think I'd do Ronaldo to Lukaku game week 7.
Yeah.
It's just it's easy saying that now, but then you actually have to. If Ronaldo scores a couple in that time, it might be hard to actually pull the trigger on that move, but it seems to fit well with that strategy.
Yeah, if he's banging the goal, it's going to be hard to get rid of a player who's like rising in price and in such good form. But the other argument I kind of against Ronaldo is that in game week 4, right? Salah's probably just as good an option against Leeds, and also in game week 5, Salah's got Brentford as well. So there is an argument that can be made there that Salah could cover Ronaldo for captain on them two game weeks that you're planning to captain Ronaldo. And if it wasn't for captain Ronaldo, for them 2 game weeks, I don't think he's actually worth bringing in. It's just the fact that he is a really, really good captain shout, for game week 4 and game week 6. And I think just the popularity of the player and how many people are bringing him in, he's probably going to be like the highest captain in game week 4 and 6, ahead of Salah now. So yeah, there is that risk as well that if you don't get him in, you could take a battering in the overall ranks. When everybody else has got him captain.
Yeah. So just while you've mentioned that, it's reminded me. I think we skipped past something. We didn't really talk about. We were talking about your ranks before, but we didn't really get onto your sort of overall, like how you've got those ranks. Like what were the top things you've done, sort of the guiding principles. So you kind of getting onto like ownership and all that with what you were saying there about Ronaldo.
Yeah.
Like, would you say what kind of like manager would you say you are when it comes to that sort of stuff, and with the finishes you've had? What do you think it is about the way you play that gives you success in the game?
I think overall I'm quite a conservative manager. I'm quite safe. I don't take many risks, especially when it comes to the captains. I'm mostly captain, the highest kind of one player, like the obvious choice. Hardly ever take any kind of differential captain picks. Maybe near the end of the season when if I'm chasing something, then I'll kind of go down that road. But yeah, generally, fairly safe. Kind of template. The first half of the season, just to kind of stay with the pack and then start to differentiate a bit later on. But what I would say is that I'd say one of my strong points is being patient, and it's something that I've kind of learned over the years. And what I mean by that is not making rash transfers like during like on a Monday morning or on a Saturday night. Like I'll wait until like Friday, Saturday, or Thursday, Friday. Once all the press conferences are done, once I've got all the information, pretty much ignoring price changes. and then kind of make my decisions. Once I've got once I've got as much information as possible, really. Then making the transfers. I think that's really helped me over the years because, what I found was a kind of downfall in some of the seasons, especially in like 2016-17 when I finished on the 38k, was just making too many rash decisions without thinking. Chasing a player who'd scored, a brace of one game week and then just get them in the next game week, things like that. So yeah, if I was to give like one solid bit of advice, I'd say follow like one rule. If you had to pick one rule, I'd say just be patient. And make your transfers late as possible with as much information as possible.
Yeah, a phrase you often hear is people say is like invest in 0.1 in more information because in terms of going early in the week, like you hear some people say that like I'll pay that extra 0.1 for the extra information I'll have from the press conferences.
Exactly.
But that was a kind of a difference between me and Callum last season. I was constantly doing my transfers late, and Callum was going early on players like Calvert-Lewin at the start of last season. And then our team values towards the end were very different, and the team that he could then afford when it came to wildcard in the second half of the season, it was very different to mine. So I've reevaluated that a little bit this season, but I do think it's, as you say, it's especially there's still this stuff going on with like Rafinha might not be back for Gameweek 4, and at the moment there's still uncertainties that are outside the normal footballing realm with COVID and international breaks and stuff. So you have to. I think it's definitely good advice to pick your battles when it comes to going early.
Definitely.
Yeah,
definitely.
The last 2 years I've probably got lucky doing that, haven't I? Jumped on players early, but maybe if you say over 10 years that's not sustainable. I've probably got lucky, especially last season. Every bandwagon player that I kind of jumped on early on, they just continued firing, like Calvert-Lewin, players like that. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see whether that continues this season with your Antonios, your Ben Ramas, because they've already started the first three well, haven't they? So it'd be interesting to see that kind of develop over the season.
Yep.
Sweet. Where are we on to now? So we've gone through Ronaldo. So you're saying you're still 50-50 on whether to because I think I was looking at your team before. You've got 2 free transfers, which is quite a good position to be in.
Yeah.
But you're still thinking like you might keep hold of Bruno rather than having. No. Would you captain Bruno this week, or would you go for Salah?
No, currently my captain is on Mo Salah, and then I'll captain Mo Salah this week. But if I do get Ronaldo in, then I'll be him. I'll captain Ronaldo. But at the moment it's on Salah.
Where do you stand on 3 premiums, Abdul? Do you see that becoming a strategy with all these premium players, or do you think your team just suffers too much by having 3?
I don't know. I think 3 premiums you could probably just about get away with, because if you've got, I guess if you've got Salah, Ronaldo, and Lukaku, because there is quite a few good kind of mid-priced midfielders this season, like Rafinha, Ben Rama, Sarr, things like that, players like that. So you can, there are some good cheap options there. So yeah, you could actually, I think you can probably get away with it. But to be perfectly honest, because I'm not a wildcard, and I've not actually looked or made a wildcard team, or made the team with 3 premiums yet. But I think generally though, you will kind of, I think in the long term, like you will suffer, with 3 premiums. But I think maybe going with them, over a certain period of time, like maybe like a medium term, or like maybe 5-6 game weeks, it could be possible. If you kind of looked into the fixture swings and that. But yeah, it's a risky strategy, I'd say, overall.
Right, because I played my wildcard last week and I've Kane, Lukaku, and Salah, which I'm turning Kane to Ronaldo this week. So yeah, it is risky, but if they both start banging, then who knows?
So who else have you got? Have you got Trent as well?
Yeah, so Trent, Shaw, Reguilon off the top of my head, then Salah, Rafinha, Ben Rama, and then 4.5 mid Sissoko, where I kind of fail, but then Antonio, Ronaldo, Lukaku up top. So it's tricky to get without one player that kind of lets you down. So
you got 2 4.5 million midfielders?
Just the one, Sissoko. Yeah.
That sounds. So you've got Kane, Lukaku, and who else did you say? Antonio.
Yeah, I'm gonna switch Kane to Ronaldo possibly, but then Kane, Crystal Palace. I don't know yet. It probably depends on whether Lukaku's captain or not for me this week. Probably come down to that.
Yeah.
One of the slides has your team on it, doesn't it? You might as well while we're on it, quickly talk about
that. That's the wild card I went with last week. Obviously, Kane was captain, just because I seen. I think it was Bakker was saying Kane was a real differential captain last week, and obviously it didn't work out. But yeah, I kind of went early because I foreseen that people were going to play the wild card this week with Ronaldo, so I kind of tried to get ahead of it and ended up getting mid-50s, so it didn't work out too well. But yeah, like I say, there's 4.5 mid there. Which
Sissoko's 4.5. How much is Sissoko?
4.5. Yeah.
Yeah. So you've got two
4.5.
Yeah, you've got two 4.5 midfielders. Yeah.
Oh, I thought you meant him starting 11. Sorry. Yeah, no. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, so see that's the sacrifice right there. So you've got a 4.5 million midfielder like as one of your starting 11, which that obviously I think over like the long term, that's probably you're gonna suffer with that. I think you probably feel that, but I guess you got Duffy there as well. So yeah, I guess you can rotate. You can probably rotate Sissoko with Duffy depending on the fixtures. But then the thing is as well, like if Duffy loses his place, then you kind of you've got that 11th spot there is a bit it's a bit jeopardized, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a risky strike. I kind of just got swayed by Kane last week, and maybe it might not work out.
Well, I think because you were messaging me about that at the time when you were doing that wild card, and your plan was to have Kane as the placeholder for Ronaldo, basically, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was Ronaldo coming that made you sort of go for that.
Yeah, I just foreseen everyone bringing him in this week, so I kind of thought if I can get Kane in and gets a couple of goals against Watford and Antonio blanks, then it would be justifiable. But as you say, it was a risky strategy in the end because Antonio got the points and Kane didn't.
Well, before we move on, one of the questions we had from one of our followers, which I said I'd run past Abdul while we've got someone decent on the stream. So my mate Mike, who's been a follower since early days of the podcast starting, he's got two Arsenal defenders for some reason. So he's asking. Because Arsenal actually now they've gone through their hard fixtures and they've got a decent run coming. So I think he's in a bit of a quandary. He's saying, do I now keep them or do I sling them? And the two he's got are White and Tierney.
Okay.
So, I mean, my thoughts on that are I wouldn't want two Arsenal assets, never mind two Arsenal defenders. I think one. Given White's price, and I think he might be going down to 4.3 by tomorrow. So I think at 4.3, he's a good option to have. You can rotate. You were talking about rotating Duffy. You can at 4.3, you can just rotate Ben White in and out whenever you need him. Whereas I think with Tierney, even though he's amazing when he plays, just the injury risk he has annoys me a little bit. I don't think you can rely on him that much. So my opinion would be to keep one. Don't know what you guys think.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I mean, I've got Ben White myself. And it's pretty annoying that he's dropped in price. But I mean, I got him in knowing I was going to bench him for the first 3 game weeks. But I think obviously he dropped in price because of he's been injured. He's had COVID.
Yeah.
So people will just see the kind of yellow and red flags and just started getting rid of him. But yeah, Arsenal's fixtures are great now. So they've got obviously Norwich this week, Burnley, and then they've got kind of Brighton, Crystal Palace, and Villa. So they've got a great run. So I think definitely keep Ben White. I think Tierney is a good option. I mean, I wouldn't have advised for him to start with 2 Arsenal defenders, but now that he's got them, I think I'd keep them both for this run.
Right.
And obviously, I mean, I don't know his team structure, whether he's playing 4-4-2 or 3-5-3, whatever, or 3-5-2, sorry, or what. But obviously, I'd start Tierney, ahead of Ben White, obviously because he's got the attacking threat. But I think, I guess when he's got when he's got like 2 or 3 transfers, or he's got like a good time to get rid of one of them, then probably get rid of Tierney, just or White. It depends, but I mean, it's hard to really say, without kind of looking at his team. But I say if he's got them now, then I just keep them, and just play them for that, because they've got a great run all the way up until Gameweek 11. They've got a really good run, and then even then, I mean, even kind of beyond that, they've got good fixtures. They've got Liverpool in Gameweek 12, which is a wee bit tough, but yeah, they've got a good run coming up.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? I think it's part of the issue with us. It's hard to see them turning a corner at the moment, even with the. I guess fixtures do bring form though, which is something that happens in every season. I'm interested to see how Arteta turns that around.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, they played City in Gameweek 1. They're always going to lose that game, right? They're always going to lose against Chelsea as well. They're 2 of the best teams in the probably like 2 of the best teams in the league that they played in the first 3 games. The Brentford game, they shouldn't have lost that, of course, with them being like, a promoted team. But to be fair, they were really unlucky not to score. They had a lot of shots in the box. They were kind of good attacking wise. And obviously against City as well, they got a man sent off. So, yeah, I think it's important not to get too carried away with how bad their start has been. I think they still will do quite well over their easy fixtures.
Nice. While we've got this expected points thing on, something that just popped into my head was you might not know this, but does this predicted points projection, does this factor Ronaldo being on pens, or does it still have Bruno on pens?
It will do, yeah. I mean, the kind of algorithm is quite complicated from what I know. So like it's kind of taken from bookmakers' odds and that. So obviously, I know the bookies factor that. They factor those things in as well. Who's going to be on penalties and that. And I think everybody pretty much is of the opinion that he will take the penalties away from Bruno. So yeah, it would have that factored in.
Nice. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Cool.
It's going to be interesting that, and when you see how clinical Bruno's been on penalties, and obviously Ronaldo missed one midweek, it's going to be that first. He's obviously going to get the first one. It's just the second one and thereafter, isn't it?
Yeah, no. I mean, it's hard to see. It's hard not to see Ronaldo taking them, do we?
I think it's also I think when I brought Lukaku in, I thought it was a given that he'd have them, but Jorginho's record on pens and the fact that he's won European Player of the Year and all that, will they just by default go to Lukaku at Chelsea as well? It's another thing they probably will. It's just another slight doubt there.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say that it's 50-50 with Lukaku and Jorginho. I mean, Lukaku's a kind of big player as well. He's got that kind of that name. Not as big as Ronaldo, obviously, but he still has that kind of pull. So he might pull rank. We'll see. Be interesting to see him get a penalty.
These top players seem to do that, don't they? Regardless of any kind of record.
Yeah, like the Carlton. Oh, funny.
So yeah,
you want to move on to?
This is something. So I saw Adam Hopcroft talk about this earlier. I think while we were talking about wildcards, I thought we could just talk about quickly. So when you played wildcards in the past, like what are your sort of things that you think about when you're putting together a squad? Like, do you try to have? I know some people try to have like the most expensive player, one of the most expensive players from each position, so they know they can easily move to the next player if they need to get away from someone, and not being doubled up in certain places, having good captaincy cover. What would you say are the sort of the top things for you when you're putting together a wildcard team?
Yeah, I think just having the main players, as you said, like covering the price points. Like you're not going to go without. I mean, I wouldn't advise going out with likes of like Salah, one of Salah or Bruno, and then one of the kind of like premium options. Like if you are going to wildcard now, then I would say get a Salah, and get one of either Ronaldo or Lukaku. But I mean, when you take that risk of going out without somebody like Salah, for example, I mean, to get him back in is going to be tough. I mean, you're going to have to do like at least a -4. to get him back in. So yeah, so if I was what I look at when playing a wildcard is like look at as long term as possible. I mean, the next wildcard I think we get is Gameweek 20, I think, is it? So I mean, you have to kind of there's no point planning for playing a wildcard and then just kind of thinking 5-6 games ahead. You have to look like up until you get the next wildcard, and then taking risks like going without one of the best players in the game. It's definitely not something I'd recommend. And obviously, when you've kind of got your the bulk of your kind of premiums in place, and obviously you need to start picking the best kind of the mid-priced options. Like for example, you've got Greenwood and Jota. You can kind of, because you've got Greenwood, Jota, Ben Rama. Who else is it? You got Torres as well now. So you've got that kind of price point there, which you can kind of you can switch between them. So you can if you look at the fixtures, for example, if you've got you can have Greenwood there, and you have a kind of plan in your head of you switch it to Jota when his kind of fixtures get better, for example. So it's always kind of good to think that way as well. And I think one of the most important things is defense. The defense has to be like you need to pick a defense where you pick that defense and you don't touch it again for the rest of the season, really, because you don't want to be making like defensive transfers or goalkeeper transfers. You want to have a good defense, 2 solid players, like for example, you have a Trent or a Digne or something, and you've got a good rotating pair. Like just for example, when I started the season, I picked Dunk and White because I know Brighton and Arsenal got a really good kind of rotation right up until like game week 20. So yeah, I think those are the main things that you need to think about when you plan your wildcard. Yeah,
so just on screen at the moment, we've got this tweet from Adam Hopcroft, one of the other top managers in the community. He did say after he put out this draft that didn't have Salah in, that it's not something he's doing. He was just putting it together to see how it looks and what you think. But while it does look great having Ronaldo, Lukaku, and Antonio as your front line, if you take Salah out, it's the fixtures Liverpool have got at the moment. It's so hard to envisage taking, especially game week 5 when Liverpool do have Palace at home. That's not a game you want to be without Salah. I was talking before we went on air, just my experience game week 1 last season. Not having Salah, so I've learnt my lesson the hard way about going without Salah. So I think for me, if it was one of for making that sacrifice in midfield to get Ronaldo or Lukaku, it'd be Bruno, I think. No, not Salah.
This team would probably rely on Jota being Salah, wouldn't it? If Firmino's out long term, and we all see Jota's numbers, don't we? And it almost matches Salah when he's on the pitch. So that would almost rely upon Jota matching Salah game for game, wouldn't it?
Yeah. I'm not sure if with that team, would you captain Jota with the same confidence as you captain Salah though? That's
no.
Yeah. So yeah, it's an interesting one. I think I wouldn't be losing Salah or Trent though. I think I'd be looking to make the sacrifices elsewhere. Is what I'd say on that.
Definitely.
Cool. Should we move on to? Did we have something on the best budget options?
We didn't have a graphic. I think we were just going to talk about it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah. Just we'll quickly because as I was mentioned at the start, Abdul was on the FPL show this week talking through the best budget enabler options for each position. So, are you? Is your opinion changed on those? If you could run through goalkeeper, defender, midfielder, striker, where you think the best bargain basement options?
Yeah, no, I think I'd still say the same. I mean, when you're looking at budget goalkeepers, I still think Sanchez is the best because they've got this. Brighton have got the strongest defence from the 4.5 million goalkeepers. I mean, I guess you might be able to make a case for David Raya from Brentford. Because Brentford, their defensive stats have actually been quite impressive up until now, and he's made some good saves. Seems like a decent goalkeeper, but with only 3 games gone, I don't think you can kind of fully rely on that. I think the safer option is Sanchez, and And then also Livramento, yeah, he's great. I think he's totally nailed. I don't think there's any kind of any risk of him kind of losing his place now, especially after like Kyle Walker-Peters, has played at left back and got subbed on for Perraud instead of him as well. And I think Williams is again he aside from Man United, he came straight in and replaced Giannoulis at left back, so he looks pretty nailed as well. So yeah, I mentioned on the FPL show as well. Like, if you're on a wild card, I mean, every penny counts when you're on a wild card. So I mean, obviously, Liverpool's 4.1, Williams is 4.0. So if you can't, for some reason, and if you need that 0.1, then Williams is a good option too. And yeah, I think it was Basuma for the midfielders I mentioned. Again, he's 90-minute man. Play most games. That's what you want. And then yeah, from the budget options, there's not really anybody else apart from Dennis, is there? I think he's the only option
for the forwards. Yeah,
for the forwards.
What was I going to say? I think so for the defenders, I think if Ben White does drop in price over the next couple of days, I think he'd be the sort of next, if the next one up. I think if you're looking for, I think for the two cheapest defenders, I'd probably go Livramento and White if he just drops 4.3 rather than Williams, just because the Arsenal defence eventually you'd hope would be better than Norwich's.
Once Conte gets older.
What was I going to say? Just watching the highlights of Norwich's game against Match Today, it did kind of look like Brandon Williams was at fault or involved in kind of in the run up to one of the goals that Norwich conceded in that game. So it'd be interesting to see if he does keep. You think he'd keep his place, but it just puts that little bit of doubt there. And you were saying before that defence is one of the places where when you make a wild card, you don't want to have to be making defensive transfers. You don't want any doubt about them being you want as few as possible, basically.
Yeah, but at the same time as well, like that, the fifth defender spot is probably the one that you hope not to ever use. He's going to be sitting on your bench. But I mean, I don't think it'd be a total disaster if your fifth defender kind of lost his lost his place in the team, because you'd hope that your first two subs. I mean, I think you'd be really unlucky if you had to kind of use your third your third substitute. In any game, you'd have 3 players out injured or that, which is highly unlikely. But yeah, I mean, generally, I mean, when you do a wild card, you try and be as solid as possible in the defence.
Unless you're Callum and you've got 2 4.5 midfielders, one of them. You might need that fifth defender then at some point.
Yeah, exactly. Potentially.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, for time, and we've just hit 40 minutes. We were going to talk a little bit about a wildcard draft we put together just between us last week. If you've got time to stay on, but if you need to, need to dash off, feel free to head off whenever. So this is one that we did in our last stream. We just put together as live together to see what our combined thinking was. So at the time, I think we did toy with Calvert-Lewin at first, didn't we? Going 3-4-3, but then I don't think we could afford a decent defence with Calvert-Lewin in a 3-4-3. So we ended up on this with Dennis being first on the bench. When you look at that, what's your initial thought, Abdul?
Yeah, no, I think it's good. I mean, you've got obviously the two. You got Livramento and Williams, but yeah, again, I think Livramento is good as a fourth defender. I think he's fairly nailed. Rudiger, obviously, I think he's a great shout as well. Salah and goal. I mean, you've covered all the bases because we've got great fixtures coming up, and Chelsea's fixtures take a turn, for the better Gameweek 7. You've got Salah, Ronaldo, Antonio, Rafinha, which I think you've got the essential players. As you say, with Trent, Salah, and Ronaldo there, and if and Rafinha, I'd say, is pretty much kind of almost on that kind of category as well, just due to how kind of good value is, being at only 6.5 million. And yeah, I think that's a decent team. But is that a 3-5-2 or a 3-4-3? I mean, you've got Torres and Dennis. I suppose Dennis can be on the bench then, yeah.
Yeah, 3-5-2.
Yeah. No, I like it.
The only thing I'd say, just to reiterate, is for anyone who's got Rafinha or who might be getting him in on the wildcard, just to keep an eye on the news of whatever's going on with the Brazilian FA. They seem to be kicking up a fuss about the Premier League not releasing the Brazilian players. So
it's not just Brazil, is it? There's a few countries. I think Mexico are involved as well with Jimenez. There's a few countries that aren't happy about what's happened.
Yeah,
interesting. So
one thing I'd advise as well is like if you're not using your wild card, and just don't make any transfers yet. This is a week where you really, really have to wait, until after the national break before you make your transfers, because there's just so much going on this week. But but just go back to that team as well. Like I think Jota is a great pick, right? But I think if Firmino's out for a while, then he is definitely one to get. But I think if Firmino's fit, then it's probably one of those where, because you've got Jota there. If Firmino's fit, he's going to be a rotation risk. And you've got Torres there as well as a rotation risk as well. So that's kind of only criticism I would have with that team.
Yeah, so I think initially we had Shaw instead of Rudiger, and I think your plan, Callum, was for this hypothetical wildcard would be to then in game week 7 when Chelsea's fixtures turn do Shaw to Rudiger. And my point at the time was, we've already got, if we've got rotation risks in Jota and Torres, we don't want to have a move penciled in for Shaw to Rudiger. Might as well just have Rudiger in place now, and then take this gamble on Jota while Firmino's injured and Torres is. I think if I was to lose one of Jota and Torres, it'd probably be Torres. Just because of the pet factor. I think Jota's kind of more assured for minutes than Torres, especially when. How long is Foden out for?
So they've undiagnosed his injury so far, so they've got no return date. Last I heard,
right?
They're not sure what's going on.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Because once Foden and De Bruyne and those lot are back, it's just going to be a nightmare, isn't it, with Torres?
Yeah. The other thing with Torres, though, you can kind of tell what Pep's going to do with his comments after the game, and he was bigging him up as the next Jamie Vardy after his game against Arsenal. So that kind of suggests that position is going to be his to lose almost after his performance.
I never trust Pep.
That's a dangerous game to play. I mean, you can never predict Pep. I mean, he's got a history of bigging players up and then dropping them the next game. Honestly, I never trust Pep now. Whatever he says, or how much he bigs up a player, I'll never trust him because I've been burnt too many times by him. Saying
you sound like a man who's been.
Trust me, I've been through it with Pep. It's one of the reasons why I'm really kind of put off Torres. I mean, obviously, if he starts every game, he's a great option. But just going back to what you're saying about the picking Rudiger ahead of Shaw, I totally agree with that. Because even through Chelsea's kind of tough run, they've got such a good defense. They can keep clean sheet against any team. Right? You seem like even with 10 men, they held their own against Liverpool. And totally agree as well. I'd pick Jota over Torres because he's even with Firmino fit, he's going to play more minutes, I think.
So where do you stand on a team like Wolves, where the stats are pretty much through the roof, but they've not kind of delivered yet? Would you bring in a player ahead of them delivering, or would you wait and see to them to get a clean sheet or a goal with Traore, for example?
No, definitely. I'd go on them now. Look at their stats. I mean, what you've got to realize is in FPL, it's not about it's not about the actual points the player scored. It's about, I think, it's more about their stats, because what you've got Traore there, who's, for example, even Wolves as a team, they're getting a lot of chances. They've been extremely unfortunate not to have scored yet. And so judging by their stats, you look at their stats and see, okay, look, they are going to score. I mean, they are going to score soon. And, players like Traore and that, they're going to start putting the chances away. So in this situation, I think I definitely kind of jump on before they actually start scoring, because the stats are there.
So would Traore be your pick of the ones from Wolves?
Attacking wise, I'd probably say yeah. For some reason, I'm not really too convinced on Jimenez yet. I just think that head injury is maybe causing him maybe a bit of. I think it might take a while to get over that psychologically. Admittedly, I've not seen many of those games, and I've not seen him like if he's going up for headers and if he's getting kind of as physical and that. Maybe you guys might be able to kind of fill me in if you've watched, but yeah.
There was definitely a game where he could have had a header, and instead he let the ball drop and controlled it, and then the chance had gone. So that's the only one I've seen. I don't want to read too much into that one.
I can't remember which game it was, but Shearer on Match Today actually did like 2 or 3 where he could have gone for it and he waited for it to drop. So yeah, it is an interesting thing going forward.
Yeah. Also, he seems to be playing a bit deeper, and he's letting Traore and Trincao run on.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think
he's created quite a few chances actually in the first 3 weeks, hasn't he? His kind of chance creation has gone up. So yeah, he might have a new role.
Yeah, so yeah, I think it probably would be Traore, and then some of the defenders are interesting as well, because they don't seem to be conceding that many shots from what I've seen, which is given how attacking they are, it's interesting how they've managed to balance that out. So yeah, I'm still not sure whether I'm going to pull the trigger on mine yet. It just feels, after taking the -4 for the Lukaku last week, it feels wrong to then wildcard out of that to take the Lukaku out. But you see people saying each season you've got to react and adapt to like what the current landscape is and that sort of stuff. So I'm in my own head at the moment thinking, is this moment Ronaldo coming to the league the moment where you just react and change your plans and all that stuff? But I'm not sure. Still not sure. I think I'll be waiting for Ollie's press conferences and waiting for that extra information and stuff, as Abdul was saying earlier.
I think the question you're going to ask yourself would... Go on, Abdul, sorry.
No, you go.
Oh, would you be more gutted if you had him in and he didn't score, or you didn't have him in, he scored, well, he got a brace, for example?
Well, as long as Lukaku got a brace, I wouldn't mind.
Yeah.
I think that's the other thing to think about, isn't it? Like, it's like what you were talking about with the value before. Lukaku's $1 million cheaper. So if you can, over the next few weeks, if you're happy with if I'm happy maybe to rotate Lukaku and Salah for the captaincy rather than getting Ronaldo, and I've got that extra $1 million, would that potentially be better? It's a tricky decision. But what was the did you want to go on to your team? Is this your team?
Oh, we've already ran through how bad it is having a 4.5 midfielder player. So this is just Abdul's team. We were just getting maybe potential early indicator. You talked about maybe Ronaldo coming in with your 2 transfers. If you had any thought, or are you just going to give it a bit more time over the international?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna get a bit more thought, but I don't know. I'm just feeling it's just inevitable that I bring Ronaldo in. The more I think about it, I just think the amount of transfers people are, transfers in for him, and how many people are going to, kind of captain him, and the fact that he's very, very likely to take penalties off Bruno. Yeah, I do think it's kind of inevitable. So yeah, I mean, if I do get Ronaldo, it'll be Ings and Bruno out, and then Ronaldo and either Jota, Torres, I guess maybe even Greenwood. I mean, there's a few options there that I can bring in, but yeah, I need to think about it. I mean, if Firmino's out long term, then it's 100% Jota's coming in, because you know what that's like.
Yeah, it's just it's that price and him being a 7 point something midfielder, but he's actually the number 9 for Liverpool for a few weeks. Yeah. It's hard to turn that down, isn't it? But yeah, it's a great position to be in, like you said, like being able to get Ronaldo if you wanted to without having to take a hit. Because
I mean, I think
where what you said about the patience comes in.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, and I think if for some reason I didn't get Ronaldo, I just move on Ings to Calvert-Lewin. That was kind of my original plan. Just to move on Ings to to DCL. But we always say Ronaldo's kind of a bit of a spanner in the works.
It's the thing is with the Ronaldo thing. The more I think about it, like the way he broke that record, like getting like waiting until like the 90th minute and then getting another one in the 95th minute.
Yeah,
it just felt like a Ronaldo thing. And him on his return to Old Trafford, like bracing and on his return to Manchester. It just feels like one of those things that it's a Ronaldo thing.
Yeah. It just feels inevitable, doesn't it? That he's going to hold. Just one of those things that's kind of written in the stars.
He'll have a terrible game and he'll score 2 goals in the last 10 minutes on it. It's written.
Yeah. So he's that type of player. He can play like he'll beat out the game, but then he can easily, he just needs one chance, because over his career he's just kind of moved further and further forward. So he's just like a kind of an out-and-out striker just now, isn't he? So he's always going to be within a chance.
I don't know if you caught any of I was watching the Black Box. Me and Callum were talking about Mark's points about Ronaldo on Black Box earlier in the week, and he was going through like how he at Juventus last season relied on crosses and for a lot of his goals, like his increasing his heading ability, the amount of goals he gets with his head has increased massively since he left United. And one of the stats that Mark pulled out was that United were actually 17th for crosses.
Yeah, 17th cross in Premier League. Yeah, so something's got to change there, hasn't
it? But it's interesting that if that does change and Ollie gets United playing to Ronaldo's strength, you'd think a lot of those assists are going to come from Shaw because he's one of the best crossers.
I think theoretically speaking, because he does get a lot of cross on that left side. And I guess kind of probably increases Wan-Bissaka as well to some extent because he does provide some cross from the right as well. But I think I haven't actually seen that video yet from Mark, but I've heard about it and I have heard it is absolutely amazing, the analysis he's done. So it's definitely I've got it kind of bookmarked to watch. But it's interesting because I've not actually watched it myself, so it's interesting that he's he's kind of picked out that he's kind of increased his heading ability over the years. But even kind of without that, even if he's not got good crossers of the ball there, I think he's still good enough to score tons of goals. I think I'm predicting he'll score it easily 15 and 20 goals this season. Whether that's worth 12.5 million, I don't know, but I guess what kind of alluded to earlier, owning him over his good fixtures is going to be worth it, and I think it's probably going to be advisable, especially with the many people that are going to own him.
Yeah, I think for my team personally, because I've got Rafinha as well, I think it might, if Rafinha ends up not being available for Gameweek 4 because of whatever's going on, it might tip me over the edge to that wildcard button and then just go into the Ronaldo thing. And then I think what I'd end up doing is Ronaldo, Salah, Ronaldo for the captain, and then Lukaku, then Gameweek 7.
Yeah.
Potentially, but we'll see. A lot of moving parts.
Yeah, no, I think that's kind of everybody's plan, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I think if he's getting a goal a game, it'd be easy to get rid of him. But if he's banging in like a brace, a hat trick, or getting kind of double-digit hauls, then it's gonna be. I think it's good though. I think it's good for the game. With Lukaku and Ronaldo coming in, it's totally kind of mixed things up, isn't it? It's just like totally kind of blown the template of the water.
Yeah, I was just going to say that last 2 years we've pretty much had the same premiums, haven't they? So that's kind of just shifted the game a bit, shifted it down a bit.
It's been Bruno Salah, hasn't it? Really, I think last season, I'd captained Salah like something like ridiculous, like 25 times, and then Bruno like 9 times, and then the rest of them like kind of KDB and Kane here and there. But
is that in the contract with your social media handles? You've got to captain Salah at least 20 times a season.
No, honestly, I love Salah and I've got my kind of profile picture, but when it comes to FPL, there's no kind of sentiments or loyalty there. None at all.
Nice. I think one thing we've got to ask. I'm sure there's plenty of people who are watching this on the YouTube. Just wondering for a tip on how do you grow such an amazing beard? I think Callum will be looking for some tips as well. That patchy thing he's growing on his face. Is there any method to the magic?
Just let it grow. I would say on a serious note though, like when you are growing your beard, right, when it gets to like a certain length, it looks really, really messy, like about an inch, right. And you need to kind of let it grow through that phase, because once it gets a bit longer, it looks much better. You know, you can start shaping it and putting all the oils and stuff in it, and get it in shape. So yeah.
Nice. We'll have to remember when we put this out later, as well as all the FPL hashtags. We'll have to put in hashtag beard game, hashtag beard tips, all that. Get some of the beard community involved. Is there just about approaching the hour mark? We covered everything.
I think that's everything. Yeah, that's on there.
Sweet. I think the plan was to keep it under an hour. So thanks again for joining us tonight. Massively appreciate you coming on, being our first guest since we've been running this podcast, giving us a Friday night prime time as well.
No, that's fine. I mean, I wasn't aware I was the first guest. I mean, like, because I thought you would have, you guys have been going for a while or something. But yeah, kind of honored to be your first guest. But yeah, no, thanks for having me on, man. As I said, I always enjoy chatting FPL, so it was good.
Nice one. So yeah, well, good luck to everyone who is hitting the wildcard button, and try to take on board some of Abdul's advice. Don't do any rash decisions. Wait for if you're not playing your wildcard, wait for news on who's fit, who's available in the press conferences, and good luck for next game week.
Cheers.
All right. Cheers, guys.
See you all later.